Those are 2 doctors that are leaving. Hey everyone, Ryan Young, Kama Jiu-Jitsu. I hope you're doing well. So today's topic was something that I've always thought about from now and again, but it comes down to some of the things that black belts do to or for their students that I think are not right. Because what it does is it promotes people probably ahead of time, time before you're ready. So I'll give an example. I had a student come in just last week, purple belt, from a local academy, but also through another academy prior to that. And here's the thing, he was a purple belt and he was only training for about 4 years. And for somebody to be a purple belt for, after that short period of time is not necessarily such a big deal. But to get their belt advancement in that short a time period, you kind of expect a level of technique displayed. What happened was, this gentleman, great guy, but I feel sorry for him because he, based on our standards, which are not difficult, right? As you see in all our videos, we're very heavily criteria based. Basically I have a checklist, and if you know and you check off all the boxes, then you're a blue belt. If you have that, plus we check off more boxes that are in the purple belt criteria, then you become a purple belt. So in that way, I've had people progress through from white to blue in a very short period of time, but they were extraordinary. And they were training every single day and training, basically in a semi-private setting. So yeah, it can happen quickly. On the other hand, I have people who they might have gone 2 years before they get to a blue belt. They don't train as often, or they just don't have a high jiu-jitsu IQ, so they can pick stuff up as quickly as somebody who might have gotten it 4 months. But what a professor can do is they can really ruin your path. And what they'll do is they'll do it by either taking too long to promote you. As a friend of mine from Hawaii, what happened to him, he was a blue belt for 6.5 years. And that kind of ruined the relationship, only because it really showed that the instructor had no validation for him. And he was extraordinary. He was tapping out black belts toward the end of his blue belt career, right? So, his next instructor then got him to purple belt, and then actually I think he got the purple belt. He was purple belt for a year, and then a brown belt for a year. And so from the last day of his blue belt to his black belt was about 2 years, which that was right because he was a blue belt for 6.5 years. And, so in that way the instructor, I think, did the wrong thing by holding him back too long. But I don't know what his reasons were for holding him back, but he did. Another thing that someone can do as a disservice to their student is to promote them too quickly or without enough rigorous testing, through whatever method you want to have. So now some people will use competitions as a testing bed. Some people will use in-studio sparring. Some people will use a testing method, a formal test, as a way to determine evaluation. By the way, I'm just going to let you know, if I come across talking funny, it's because I bit my tongue the other day. So I might be trying not to bite that side again. So forgive me if I talk funny. So if you're a student that gets promoted too quickly and you go to a school, and that's another thing that we talk about with our old belt videos, about having that white bar on the belt, right? People get really upset at me for saying that if somebody comes in through a legit instructor, but I make them put a white bar on their belt, instead of having the bar here that's black, it'll be white, right? That just shows that you earned color somewhere, but you didn't earn it here, or you haven't passed the test on this side yet. So a lot of people, what they do when they come here is they bump themselves back down to white belt. It's not something that I choose for them, it's something they chose to do because they realize the criteria is so different. If a professor bumps his students too quickly up the ranks, and I think the reason why he did it was because this professor wanted to have this student teach classes for him so that he could teach less, right? A lot of people will have have their school set up where they're teaching all the classes. They end up teaching too many classes when you open a school. Let's say you're a black belt, you open a school, and you start off teaching 15 classes a week. You know, when you think about it, that's really maybe 15, maybe 20 hours of actual mat time work. It really wears on your body. You know, you do it for a year or two and you're done. So you can't wait to have somebody who shows some interest in wanting to teach classes. So what you might be incented to do is to promote him up the ranks a little faster because he's teaching for you. But when you do that, you're kind of you're creating a disservice for him because he's not ready for the promotions, but you're trying to promote him so that you can say, I have a purple belt or I have a brown belt teaching classes. So when people come in to check out the classes, they're not being taught by a blue belt, right? They're being taught by a more advanced belt, a purple or a brown belt. And even though it might have only been 5 years, you know, this guy's, you know, brown belt on the verge of being a black belt, right? You know, I see in people's bios how, you know, they start at a certain period of time. I saw this one black belt out of the Pacific Northwest, who started in 2001, and by 2007 was already a black belt, which 6 years, that's extraordinarily fast, right? You know, Professor Dave, you know, Dave Kama, who's, you know, arguably one of the best black belts, one of the best American black belts ever to be produced, he took 10 years to get his black belt. Was it 9? No, it was 9 or 10 years for him to get his black belt from RICKSON. And I don't know if RICKSON was particularly hard on black belts, because I have friends in Hawaii who had their black belts from Helson, and they took 10 years or so. You know, to have somebody get it in 6 or 7, it just seems a little extraordinary, unless they're that much more extraordinary. You know, BJ Penn, I understand, got it in 3.5 years. Well, he did submit his guy in the black belt world championship match, who was a weight class above him. Yeah, I mean, if you win the world championship at black belt, you're the first to do it. It would only make sense for you to and you do it in 3.5 years. It would only make sense for you to give him a black belt, you know. And he was able to back it up after that, right? He ended up being extraordinary black belt. But that's kind of a rare thing. I think KAATARO got it maybe 4 years as well. And he's an extraordinary black belt. You know, he continued to prove that he was a black belt once he became a black belt. Now, one place that I have a problem with is when some professors will give their student a promotion on a podium at a tournament. And, you know, it could be at a big tournament like, say, the Masters World Championships, which is, you know, it's a good size tournament, right? Because it's for anybody above 30. And you're at the master's level, right? So you could be, you know, much higher than match. You could be seniors and all that kind of level, and, you know, get a promotion there. But one match I'm thinking of in particular was a guy got promoted from blue to purple belt after winning his 2 matches he needed to win the division. Well, both matches he won, I say in quotes, because he didn't score a single point, he didn't score a single submission. And I think one of the 2 matches he won by advantage. The second match he won by referee's decision. So those of you who know me, you know my opinion on that. I mean, that's not a win. I guess technically in the rule book it is a win, but you couldn't even score a point on the guy, let alone an advantage or even a submission. And yet your professor felt it was appropriate to promote you on the podium, right? I don't get that, right? I understand how competition, people see it as a measuring stick, but if your student proved nothing on the mat, right? Especially since the guy he beat by referee's decision, he went up against a year prior and he lost to the guy scored points on him. Now granted, to me, you know, points win, to me it's the same thing, right? It's not a submission. But still, at least he scored points on him, which means he passed his guard and got the cross-eyed on him. So in other words, it's another frustration of mine. Don't get all butthurt, you know, all you professors who do that. That's just what you do, I guess, because that's your criteria. You're a competition-based school, and for you, competition is everything. And if your student wins their division at a certain level, then that means they're going to get a promotion. You know, and our students know that just because you win a competition, if you don't check off all the boxes, you still don't get your promotion. You know, it's good. Sorry, did it again. It's good that you won, and I'm happy that you won, especially if you won by submission. But let's say you're very good at choking somebody from the mount. That's your go-to move, but you can't choke somebody from the guard. You can't choke them from knee in the belly. You can't choke them from the back. But once you get to mount and you choke them, you do that and you beat everybody that way. That still doesn't make you complete. So for those of you who are fans of the channel, and I really appreciate that, if you like our videos, go ahead and hit the like button or the thumbs down, whatever. Some kind of activity helps our channel. Also share the videos. Also, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell. And if you want to help the channel out, as always, click the link on the Patreon. It's in the notes below. So when you watch the videos, below it says view more. Click on that and you'll see all the links that Rusty puts in there for Patreon, for Rickson Self-Defense Unit. And you know, all that stuff is really worth your time. So let me kind of go over one more thing here. Everyone asks me, hey Ryan, do you know of a place where I can train in Atlanta, Georgia, in Raleigh, North Carolina, in Birmingham, Alabama, in Seattle, Washington? I wish I did know, because they want to know. I guess you want to know, when you're asking me, you want to know, hey Ryan, in other words, if it were your own kid or if it were your best friend, where would you send me to? And for the most part, I don't know. This is something that I did a video on and helping you to find out how to look for schools on your own. If you want to do the self-defense stuff like the way we do, you have to come out and ask the professor who runs the school if self-defense is their core. If competition is their core, then maybe that's not the direction you want to go. Or if they say self-defense is their core, because some of them will say that, right? You say, does your school teach self-defense? Oh yeah, we teach self-defense. Well, they really don't, right? But they'll say that because they want you in the door, right? And they want you to pay the membership. And then once you pay and you get the contract and you realize, this is not what I want. Right? So you have to kind of do your due diligence. And that's something that, only you can kind of help yourself there. Now, a couple of places, yes, I have been able to help people and get them placed in a school because I happen to know somebody in their town. But, that's more the exception than the rule. Maybe 1 out of 25. Anyway, go and just make some phone calls. Start by asking them if they are self-defense, if that's what you want, or if they're competition, ask if they're competition. And then from there, yeah, that was Rusty, sorry, smashing his bottle. and then just kind of find your school that way. And best of luck to you. We will have an online series coming on online very soon. I'm just putting the finishing touches on it and working with the web designers. Hopefully by the time you see this video, in a couple weeks, we should be up and running. In the meantime, keep yourself safe. Be sure to make sure you keep your eyes open for punches and slaps. Make sure to kind of help your partner out by hitting them. Just remember, jiu-jitsu is a fighting art. So even if you're in a sport competition school, try to, in your mind, think of yourself going into fight situations. Think of your opponent being able to hit you whenever he wants and you being able to defend it. And try to think of things in that way. Anyway, that's all I got for you. Take care and happy training. Bye-bye now.